All right, everybody, welcome back to the Villain's Perspective podcast. We're going to be talking about the role of political endorsements and alliances in the presidential race and how they influence voter support.
Well,
Jeremy, you to start, man.
well, I think it to go ahead and hurt feelings early on. We're looking bad based on the concept that social media and the way that it garners information and how our political leadership can utilize that against us. So now they got it looking like they know what's best for us, even though they hadn't put one foot in the area for an extended period of time of his constituents, saying, I know what's best for you. And in all actuality, it's just like, well, they do, because they're telling you, we do more research on you than you do about yourself. And so when they start using it against us, and they're saying, okay, well, I know based off of the information I bought from Facebook and Instagram, where you do most of your living at, I'm going to say this, and I know that you're going to agree with me. And so when the politicians use that against us, and we're like, oh, he's saying exactly what it is that I needed to hear. No, he's saying what it is that you wanted to hear. Because his actions, his or her actions does not reciprocate what's best for the American people. Now, I blame how the politicians are on all Americans, and I'll explain later on in this journey down this wormhole. But I agree with the politicians, and Shayna I say it every week. Shayna gives herself with me. I think 90% of people are stupid, and they should be led, which is why we have the Electoral College. Because if everybody got together and said we want to vote for an armadillo, you have to have the Electoral College. See,
Man,
no, that ain't right.
hate to see it. Oh, man. Well, I will say this, just to kind of piggyback and count off what you said, Jeremy. You said that when it comes to the social media, they know what's best for you. A lot of times, when you look at it, I'm going to pull out a slingshot. I'm going to pull you back, and then I'm going to shoot you for it. Credit, when it comes to credit and you buying something, that's your adult report card. It basically is a snapshot of your purchasing decision making.
Yeah.
So now when you look at the algorithm and you look at social media, when you look at the algorithm and you look at social media, now they can see what you like and they can curb what they want to into your social media to where they can make it your idea. So essentially it's them steering you into the direction they want you to go. So
100%.
Now they know who you like, who you follow, and they take a conglomerate and take a survey. And that's where the research comes in. The research is not even in anything else but based on what you like. And what they do, they back you into that from a social media standpoint, and they put in front of you who supports that, and then they get them to endorse. Almost like paying somebody to walk through a nightclub.
Yeah.
Everybody like Future.
Getting 10,000 for the walkthrough.
60 for a walkthrough. Don't panic. You know what I'm saying? So that's where the endorsements and everything come in at, and that's what you got to look at. So it's essentially them using information for you. So going back to the quote unquote election where they said the Russians had influence on it.
Yeah.
They illustrated the power to sway public opinion based on social media.
Yeah.
Now it's almost the new ideal. So it's interesting how it plays out.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think that it almost enhances or adds to their credibility, so to speak. And they'll use a well-respected politician or even a popular public figure, and sometimes it attracts undecided voters. And also having that endorsement it garners media attention
Right.
to add, fuel to the fire. And I definitely wholeheartedly agree with everything you guys said about utilizing data from social media to pander or cater to whatever people want to hear.
Let's rip the scab off. I mean, we're going to talk about social media. We're going before we get in it, we want to take a moment to just for Mika. They suffered a loss in the family, so we want
condolences.
Our condolences, our wishes, and our prayers, and our love and our light goes out. And we know she comes from a strong unit, so
absolutely.
Hopefully they find peace in whatever they're going through.
Yep, it's her today. It could be us tomorrow.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So just get your affairs in order and make right what you can make right, because man, life too short. It is. So.
And while we're taking a break for just a second, we want to welcome Mario Harris to the podcast. We've been trying to get our time in the line
absolutely.
with and grown folks got grown things going on. So
absolutely.
But the persistence pays off, and
absolutely.
The table's always turning. So everybody gonna get a chance to eat at the table.
That's good. I'm glad to be here. I'm honored to be at the table right now, and just to bring some insight and to better develop everything, so. But back to the lesson at hand.
Yeah, so ripping the scab off. I mean, you said something just a minute ago about I'm trying to think exactly. It triggered something. Now, before we venture down this rabbit hole, I want to assume the perch, the bird's eye view, because I think Democrats and Republicans alike, the core of each side are, in the words of Donald Trump, there's some good people on both sides. It's the ignorant fillers that they align themselves with in order to get the majority vote that make both sides awful.
Right.
Now, I will say this. The people that figured out how to do it right, it's the swing state voters. The swing state voters said, we don't have an alliance with anybody that doesn't benefit us for 4 years.
Right.
And we are willing to go in a different direction at a moment's notice.
And that's their leverage.
It is, because
that's leverage.
There's no Democrat going to a Republican stronghold. There's no Republican going to a Democrat stronghold, because they both say, okay, well, we're going to respect the data. Ain't no need us wasting no time or no money over there where we know that Republicans got the stronghold, and vice versa. And so the phenomenal part about that is everybody should take, in some instance, they should take a moment to recognize the presidential hopefuls and the candidates are always spending their time in those swing states, and they make promises and see to it that the swing voters get what it is that they promise.
Leverage, the L word that nobody wants to talk about, the L word that nobody identifies with. It's leverage. When you have leverage, you get stuff done. When you don't have leverage, you get nothing done. And the worst position to be in is making demands with no leverage. And that's what ends up happening. You talk about what happens in the swing states and how they get what they want is with their leverage. And everybody else in the other states complain about what they don't get because there's no leverage.
Yeah, they just going to the table asking.
Right.
Yeah, it's like I've said in countless other things. If you're going to the table and you don't have a or else, don't go to the table.
Right, or bringing some kind of value or taking something away if you're not there. So
100%.
I mean, that is just principle that I don't even think people are aware of is leverage. I mean, it's everywhere. Relationships, purchases, acquisitions, investments. It's all about leverage. And if you don't have any, you're really at a disadvantage. And the majority, we don't have leverage.
Okay, so do you think that I think people have gotten used to being at a disadvantage because it's simpler to be able to blame somebody else when things don't come through.
Well, you first got to back up, and most people don't realize that they're at a disadvantage. When you look at it from that standpoint,
touche.
There is no advantage or disadvantage to some people because it's oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
So in order to get to that posture, to have that conversation, we have to identify the disadvantage, because you can have somebody that, from a bird's eye view, just like you said, is at a disadvantage. But at the same time, if they don't see themselves as a disadvantage, it doesn't concern them. So a lot of it is identity. Where do you stand? And a lot of people, they don't know where they stand. They don't know what leverage they have. So when you talk about, what you enter in with, that has a lot to do with what's put out there, because you're going to influence, you're going to take care of, and you're going to prioritize what leverage you need to maintain or what leverage you need to attain. So,
yeah. Okay, so now we're almost kind of blowing the line, because there's definitely the point that you made just a minute ago, James, I think Mario, you said it, tricking the people into thinking. It's one thing that I know Americans fall for. I don't want you to have any of this crack. This crack is not for you. This is elite crack, and you are not worthy of it.
I want some of that crack.
I know where you're going.
And you're going to scratch and claw to get to it.
That's what they said happened in the Garden of Eden. Can't have that. You can't have that one.
Yep.
Get any other fruit. Don't get that one.
Yep.
And guess what? Got to have that.
That's the play.
Got to have it.
That's why it's at the beginning of the Bible, because that's what human beings fall for. Well, I don't want you to. If we were to go back to the civil rights era, let's stay here. That's why I was talking to one of my pastor friends earlier today, and I said to him, people have to stop fighting. Stop fighting for anything. Because if somebody says, okay, I want the girls should be able to play boy sports. Well, from a villain's perspective, let her. Now, let's say if that little girl if she blends over into she wants to wrestle. She's on the junior high or the high school wrestling team, and somebody breaks her arm, she can't cry. You campaign to get on this team to fight boys. Now, but I'm also tell the boys, well, go over there. I'll call somebody at Jackson State, call somebody at Belhaven. I was like, how many graduating seniors do you have? Tell those boys that they identify as girls and they can go play in the WNBA and they can make $200,000, get paid the highest, because they're going to be the most. They're going to be the ones that can consistently dunk, run faster, jump higher, shoot, and dominate. And because if everybody's saying that everybody gets to do blah blah blah, everybody like rules until they got to follow them.
Right.
So it's no different than when you say, okay, well, if a man, what was it? If a man says, is a man not a man if he can't change tires? And now most women gonna be like, no, he ain't no man if he can't change no tires. But then we say, all right, well, if if a woman can't cook from scratch, do I get to judge her with the same litmus test? So it's just like, I stopped fighting against stuff. We as Americans have gotten so used to fighting, half of us don't even know we already winning.
Ooh. Shots fired.
Everybody in the United States is winning. Even the homeless is living better. than homeless people in other cities. Beijing, well, not Beijing. What was it? When they had the last Olympics? No, it was over there when they had it over in Brazil, and what, Rio de Janeiro. Oh, was it Rio?
There was somewhere they almost canceled it because the water was bad and all that.
Yeah,
I remember that.
In Rio, you got the favelas up in the hills. There's a railroad track, and then you have opulence. There is no middle class. You're either poor or rich. But there is always a 8-year-old that's out looking for something to eat and to help with the family. He's got rules and he's got obligations at 8 or 6 or 5, and he knows how to go look for what it is he's looking for to help the family come back. And he's got to trek through drugs and filth and feces and the whole nine because he has a job for the family. I'm not saying that that's not happening in the United States, but it ain't as bad as over there.
Man, I'm gonna say it ain't happening in the United. Well, it's probably happening on a scale, but it kind of hit home when you say 8-year-old, because I got an 8-year-old. So I'm picturing him in the streets, as they say, trying to get it, and that's, man, from that perspective, I would say we are at an advantage.
Yeah.
It's, subjective to say winning or losing based on whose eyes is being seen through. So, but I definitely get your point, man.
Do you guys think there's an emotional appeal to endorsements where people may feel an emotional connection to the endorser, so it translates to an emotional...
Absolutely.
Twist the knife, James.
Absolutely.
Twist the knife. Absolutely. Yeah, most people voting based off of their opinions and not no facts.
That's a machete, man.
Twist the knife.
Man. I mean, let's pull back out of politics and let's just make it simple. The great LeBron James and Michael Jordan debate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, when you pull that out, there are sides. And people will get emotional and want to fight for LeBron. People will get emotional and want to fight for Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Both are outstanding players. But at the same time, when you tug at those emotions, that's what pulls you to the side. Because one side of the motion is in the 1990s where you recorded them on VHS and you went back and watched it.
Yeah.
And when Jordan played every night. The other side is when LeBron was down 3-1 to the Golden State Warriors and end up coming back and winning that championship. Or him having the charter school.
Yeah.
Or him, being one of the highest grossers, if not the highest grossers NBA players in history. So you have both of those appeals, and that's the information that's pumped out on social media like we talked about, because every so often you'll have the Jordan highlights, the GOAT highlights, and then you'll have the GOAT highlights with LeBron. So it's almost like the algorithm is fishing and testing, okay, we can make them have arguments at work about LeBron and Jordan. I know doggone well we gonna make it pop for this election, and it's brewing. I mean, you can see the bubbles coming out of the pot. It's going there. So emotions, everybody's emotional.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I say I agree with the politicians. If Snoop was talking about something that happened with the Kardashians and Black China, or what's or whatever, the one that got with the male Kardashian. And they were asking, because she had broke up with him and got some money or something. And Snoop said, she saw a sucker, so she licked it.
Yeah.
The average American who is, and I can run down a laundry list of things that they do that they victimize themselves. They place themselves in situations to be taken advantage of. They make their lives harder. It's two people that get blamed for everyday people's misery. The devil and somebody else. And the reason that they blame the devil and somebody else is simply because they don't share with people when they had the opportunity to do what it is that they wanted to do versus what it is that they should have done.
Right. And the devil gets so much credit, man. I'm talking about too much credit.
Yep.
Too much credit. And all of it is accountability.
Yeah.
It's simple accountability, because you talk about emotion that steers bad decisions, and comfort Those two things still very bad decisions.
Yeah.
And the devil, you could say he's presenting that stuff to you, but you always have a way to escape. And sometimes you just choose not to take it. More often you choose not to take it.
Yeah.
And now you're in the position that you're in, having to make these decisions on who the next president will be from a position of no leverage based on you putting yourself out of position.
Right.
So, I mean, you can go far back as you want to as far as the position of the voter and why they're voting, what they're voting. And it comes back to accountability, which accountability is taboo these days. We're not holding ourselves accountable. At all. We blaming somebody else. That's like running a business and letting somebody count your money. You know what I'm saying? You gonna let somebody just, count your money. You don't know how to count it at all, and you gonna trust them? Come on.
Okay, so that blends over into starting in the 70s when working class involvement in politics started to decrease, and the decrease of attention or awareness was because arena ball spiked. It started to climb. You had baseball, football, basketball. Those three sports skyrocketed right there around the 70s, the late 70s, early 80s. And people started following with, I'm talking about unconscionable dedication. I'm a Lakers fan. Before I even knew, I never liked football, but I knew my family in the mid 80s were Cowboys fans.
Oh, please do not talk about the Cowboys. And I'm not saying that because I'm a Cowboy hater or 49 fan or nothing like that, but I'm gonna tell you about them Cowboys when you get done. We gonna put a pin right there, come back to it, and we're gonna lay the Cowboy thing to rest tonight.
Fair enough.
so proceed, my brother. But we coming back.
No doubt.
We coming back.
But America, the average American has given up its leverage, it's given up its rights. The average American has given up its identity based on the fact that I know secretly they want to be able to blame somebody else when shit goes sideways. I don't want to be held accountable for saying I chose blah 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 and then the shit goes sideways. Yeah. No, I don't want to have to do that because I'm gonna act such an ass when my person wins. Then all of a sudden, when my person wins, and they do some sideways shit. I don't come and say nothing to me. No, wait a minute. He was jumping and shouting. Yeah, it's like I told somebody the other day. I be careful about celebrating because when the tables turn and the other people win, they get to celebrate too. Yeah. You ain't the only one that get to champion your champion and run to the streets and holding signs and so forth and so on and ding dong the witch is dead. Yo. No. Shout out to Dorothy.
Now, this conversation is kind of like whenever we were talking about relationships the other day, and you said that when men use their money, they lead with their money as mask and cover. So when you have women come and take advantage of that, it reminds me of this discussion where politicians are utilizing the data to cater to what we need and
pimping and hoeing. Yeah. Well, let's call it what it is. I mean, it's pimping and hoeing because think about it. Now let's mix all of this together. If politicians are taking data and statistics and they're analyzing the demographic in which they're going to choose, you don't even have to be. If I'm a politician, I'm going to make sure that I do what is best. And sometimes what is best may not be right. But I know I need to make sure that my constituents stay busy and the hell out of my way so I can do what I know is best for them. Yeah. So if I'm saying the African American community, or if I'm saying the white community, or if I'm saying the gay community, I'm saying everybody needs to stay busy, because I have a better sense of where it is that we need to be tomorrow, while y'all are being concerned about how it is that things are going right now.
There you go. Say it louder. That's what we talked about earlier this morning.
Yeah.
And we talked about it this afternoon, prior to this. When you're making this decision, whatever decision you make and whatever side you want to be on, you can either be here for the wedding or you can be here for the marriage. What am I saying? What I'm saying is, wherever is drawing you to vote, if you're there, just like Jeremy said, for the celebratory response of your candidate winning that night, be ready to bear the consequences of their leadership. Both sides.
Yeah.
And just like he said, we looking for today and not looking for tomorrow. Man, you got foreign policies, you got economics, you got all those things that have to be decided upon and have to be influenced upon going into the next 4 years, because we pulling out of COVID, we're trying to.
Yeah.
But as soon as you pull out of one thing, you pulling into another. You pull out your garage, what you pulling into the street?
That's a fact.
You know what I'm saying? So do your research, be careful, and go for the marriage, not the wedding, because the wedding is gonna be over. Whether you spend $1.5 million on it or if you do a justice of the peace.
Yeah. When you talk about accountability, it seems like, how you say people want to avoid accountability. It seems like sometimes people use endorsements to avoid, like you just mentioned, doing research. Like they may say, oh, well, Elon is a smart guy, so if he endorses this person, then I don't have to do my research. I should just go with who Elon chose because Elon.
Walk with it. Yeah, Yaki.
No, I say Elon is a very smart guy. Elon is going to endorse what's in his best interest.
Yeah.
And what you got to realize is Elon best interest is probably not your best interest.
Absolutely.
Because that man got a whole bunch of money in the bank that's making interest. So with that being said, you have to be mindful of that. You can endorse anybody, but you got to understand they're in a position of their own and you're in a position of your own. And you're trusting somebody that the only side of them you see may be entertainment. The only side of them you may see is sports. The only side of them you may see could be community service. But at the same time, people are going to endorse their best interests, and you can't fault them for that.
Absolutely.
You cannot, and that's the problem. We go back to accountability, like you said. When somebody endorses someone in their best interest, and their best interest may not be your best interest, you fault the person that did the endorsing, when in all actuality, that person is getting accomplished what they set out to do with the endorsement.
Absolutely.
So it comes back down to understanding, knowing the game you're playing in.
Yeah.
So
the World War II, and we're talking about endorsements, right? World War II, Remington guns, Texaco, Ford Motors, and Coca-Cola. Those were four of the major corporations at the time, and the owners were very, for lack of better words, they were very influential, financially well off, and their perspective was, we don't give a shit who wins, we gonna run shit anyway. So they had their products on both sides of the line.
Yep.
So it's like whoever wins, they gonna have to come to us to get money, and we're going to control them. So now, no matter how your government runs, we're going to endorse both sides. So politicians don't care about a check in a box; they care about a check in a pocket.
Right.
Absolutely.
So if the American people are saying, I'm going to vote for my president or who I think should be president in 2025, you don't get to say shit about who your president is going to be in 2025 if you did not vote state and local 2 years ago. Because that's where you voted for who's going to vote for you for the president. I came here to be a villain.
Had to draw to that one. Man. What else we got?
So we kind of talked about it already, but I wanted to discuss the role of media in elections and how media coverage and social media influence can change public opinion and contribute to a candidate's campaign.
All right.
I don't think it's so much as media's fault, because if I'm willing to go and be lied to, I don't care who I choose. And so what I'm saying is every media source has its own platform of how they're going to spin things. If I'm only going to listen to somebody that's telling me I'm right, I'm already wrong. Mm-hmm. No matter what the circumstances are, I'm just waiting to be my own fool, because I'm only hearing it. That's what happened to Mike Tyson. That's what happened to R. Kelly. That's what happened to anybody that failed, because they had yes men around them. So if you're listening to CNN, or if you're listening to Fox, and you only listen to those two news sources,
you run into your echo chamber.
You're ignorant, because you're not even hearing anything. That echo chamber is one of the worst things. That you become so. The echoes get to ringing so loud that you actually are deaf. Mm-hmm. You're deaf.
Yep. That's a good analogy.
In contrast to anything that it's like, wait. So when you're hearing, well, Trump didn't do blah, blah, blah after he was out of office, and then you start to make excuses. Or when somebody says, well, Obama didn't do blah, blah, blah when he was in office. And then you start to make excuses. And it's like, we're screaming about yesterday. We're screaming about yesterday, and then the media, bro. Do y'all understand how quickly the media turned on Joe Biden? I'm talking about.
Well, it probably was
the advocates.
It was probably pre-staged.
Oh, I believe that.
I mean, it's like a loaded gun. Yeah. Hey, this is what we're gonna do.
They threw him out there. That's.
It's all. Denzel Washington, Lonzo Harrison training. They say the best. It's chess. It ain't checkers.
Yep.
And that, I mean, when you see something roll out like that, that's not by accident. That's by design.
Yep.
Yeah. That's like we talked about. One of the reasons that the Democrats had to go with Kamala Harris, because that's the best shot they had, because of the emotion and the history at stake that can potentially draw the voters that they need to push it over the top. It was a logical choice. It didn't take me by surprise.
Yeah.
I'm like, boom, there it is. I get it. Mm-hmm.
So you just said something. So
who else was going to do it? Who else you could have pulled out?
Because anybody else would have gave you facts, data, statistics, and analytics and the whole nine.
Who you would have pulled out to give facts, data, statistics, and the whole nine? That's my question.
Well, I mean, there are a mountain of governors. There are a mountain of
Man, well, okay. Let me. Okay. When did she jump in? Beginning of July?
Oh.
When was this? June, maybe?
Well, it may have been.
I think it was July.
Yeah.
Because I want to say it was after
are
Trump
you
got shot.
Which Democrat politician could have that the DNC could have chosen to put in there? Or
well, what I'm saying is, based on the time they had left,
yeah,
I just don't think anyone else was a better choice to go here. So again, in my perspective, which maybe the villain's perspective, really ain't the villain's perspective, it's the bird's eye perspective, because I'm looking at it from both sides. I'm looking at it as the game that's being played. Man, if it's July and we got to November, we got a long way to go and a short time to get there. Yeah. Like old Smoking and Bandit say. So what we gonna do? This is what we got. Mm-hmm. Let's ride with it. They got old Joe out the way, which I think Joe got his own self out the way, but essentially, even from the rumblings of his election back in 2020, everybody was saying, oh, he's incapable, he's old and things like this. So you knew that this had to be a secondary firearm, a 357 on your ankle, just in case something went bad by having her as a vice president.
Yeah.
You had to know there was a long play there. And if you're naive not to think that, I mean, it is what it is, but none of this is surprising. That's how much on your square you got to be. Not to be caught up in the emotions and say, oh my, this is what's going, no. You looking at it from a long ball perspective. Like you said, you're not looking at it for today, we're looking at it for tomorrow. And you have to stay a step ahead. So you're not surprised and you're not distracted, because a lot of distractions are coming. What we got, football just started.
The Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Basketball is October. We got so much stuff that it's not even pointing back to it. And to slide back in, put the train back on the tracks when you talk about the media, I want people to think about this. Let me throw this out here, and this is a villain perspective. There's no clean politician. I'm gonna tell you how I know. Because every time the elections come around, all the mudslinging coming out. All the dirt comes out what somebody did back in 92 when they voted for this and called somebody a super predator this and all this stuff like that. All that stuff comes out. So the fact that there are no clean politicians mean that an unclean politician is a controllable politician. Yeah. So,
what, blood in, blood out? We need to know that we got some on you, and we'll let you know some of our secrets, so that way it keeps everybody even.
Right. And hey, that's the game.
Yeah. But that's why I always say a straight line Democrat and a straight line Republican, I look at with not even a difference in opinion about, I look at them the same way that I look at Bloods and Crips. You got to be stupid. You got to be stupid to say, no matter what my party says, I'm going with it.
Yeah.
If my uncle is driving the wrong, if my mama driving me in the wrong direction, wait a minute, let me out of this car.
Yeah.
This ain't where you say you told me we were going. So we started to go in the wrong direction. I'm trying to ask questions, even if it's my mama.
Yeah.
Because as a responsible adult, I got to do what's right. And that means I got to get off this train track, because it started out going in this direction, but we ended up somewhere where I didn't think that we were supposed to be at.
Mm-hmm.
So the influence that the news has had, because that's generally where people are getting their information from. And so when people are called, when I get phone calls like, well, do you know about this situation and blah, blah, blah. And I'm thinking to myself, you are reciting everything that I know where it is that you got your news from. and most of, if I engage in the conversation, it's for my own benefit, because I already know that whoever it is that I'm talking to, if they're reciting everything that all the talking points that CNN says, or all the talking points that Fox uses, my question is always, how bad do you feel? Because it's just like I said once before. Because Shana said, you'll argue with somebody about 2 + 2 is 4. I'm not arguing about whether or not 2 + 2 is 4. I'm arguing about the fact that you heard somebody say 2 + 2 is 4. Because if you don't know what 1 + 3 is, you don't know what the hell 2 + 4 is. Yeah. Or you don't know what 6 - 2 is.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't know how to conjugate 4, you don't know what 2 + 2 is.
Right. And the way you just broke that down is actually astonishing, because you have to have different viewpoints. You can't take things for face value. They always say, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. Because of that fact, because there's a game in it always.
Yeah.
If you're an avid CNN watcher, if you're an avid Fox watcher, I don't watch neither one of them, because you got to stay pure. Because again, like you said, the echo chamber is weird. You get in there, and what you'll have is you'll be blinded by bias.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was discussing that with a trading friend today. It was like, you can be blinded by bias. You can think that Forex setup is gonna go long, and you're looking for it to go long, but actually it's printing candles to make it go short. And you missed the trade, not because it didn't that you missed it, it's just you refused to look at it.
Yeah.
So you can be blinded by bias in any arena in life. That's why you have to stay filtered. And nobody is trying to be controversial or anything like that. We're trying to be knowledgeable so you can make an informed decision.
But see, that's why I I choose the stance that I choose, is because that's what people are trying not to do.
Correct.
They don't want to make informed decisions, and they want to argue with emotion. And it's like, you cannot bring. I told a guy the other day, I should not even be having a conversation with you, because my fact-based argument will always kill your emotional, opinion-based perspective.
It's only gonna kill the emotional, opinion-based perspective based on the audience.
Facts.
Because a lot of people engage in conversations based on their audience.
Yeah.
If they have an audience that co-signs that 2 + 2 is 5, they will die on that sword. They will fall on that sword and die on that hill.
Yeah.
So the challenge is sometimes, even when it comes to the political arena, to have those discussions with people that are open-minded and are objective, not a Cowboys versus 49ers.
Yeah.
You want somebody that's going to have a discussion on how much money did that game gross on TV? How much Jerry World brought in that day? Who got stepped on when they ran in 2 hours before the game started?
Yeah.
Yep. And let me go ahead and lay the Cowboy thing to rest. When you talk about Democrats and Republicans, anybody watching this, you're an avid Cowboys fan, kudos to you. No problem with the Cowboys. But do me a favor, go to Google, look at the highest revenue NFL teams out of the 32. Guess who gonna find on the top of that list for the last 15 plus years?
Cowboys.
The Dallas Cowboys. The one-hit wonders of the playoffs. You know why? Because Jerry Jones figured it out. Jerry Jones wins the Super Bowl at the bank every year. He ain't studying no rings. That's why he got somebody that probably gonna get you 2 games in the playoffs as a quarterback and not finna let him go. Mike McCarthy's still the coach. They went and got Zeke again. Because guess what? You know what it's about? 2 hours prior to kickoff, y'all running the Jerry's world like it's Black Friday. And he making that money. So when you look at that from a political standpoint, same game, different uniforms. And the objective is to sell out the tickets, get TV ratings, and accomplish our agenda. Whether I'm on the other side or the other side, it doesn't matter. So
are you saying that a woman can get more from a man from the ideal of being intimate with him than she can just by giving it up?
Does it happen? Hey,
Proof's in the pudding.
Does it happen? You talking about facts? Let's be factual. Let the facts tell the story. So you asking them rhetorical questions.
From just to deviate for just a second, to answer that question, Instagram has killed the strip club.
You think so?
Man, these women ain't gotta go be touched on or nothing, but a man will pay.
You talking about OnlyFans? Mm-hmm.
It's just there's no promise of nothing but the very ideal that you get to go in and see and think that you're special. You gotta pay it. So with that, and if we're gonna bring this back full circle to politics, I think it was Sarah Palin, as much of a nut job as she was, she said something very funny one time. She's like, and Obama came through with the hopey changey stuff, and he did. He came through with the hopey changey stuff. The ideal of this person may be able to do blah 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 for me. Or we're gonna be on. We can make history with this. Or the ideal of if Trump gets in, then we're gonna save the country. Save the country from what? say what is it that needs to be changed by the Democrat Party, and what is it that needs to be saved by the Republican Party? Because as far as I'm concerned, the United States is working perfectly. And the reason that I say it's working perfectly, because you got people that are going out, working their way into their 70s. And their politicians have said you have to work until you're 70 to get what it is that you've put into the pot. And I know that the life expectancy is 70. So hopefully you can do all of your traveling in 2 years before you die at 72.
Man, while you on that, and I tell this, I've told this story a lot, even on social media. Grandfather had a heart attack after he collected his first Social Security check. The House always win. That's why they keep pushing the number back.
Yeah.
They keep pushing the number back. So
that helps. And if we're gonna speak economically, that money gets to go back into the system. If everybody's affairs is not in order, all the money that you get put in, they hoping that you don't live long enough to have to give you some of that money.
If that money actually exists.
Well, taking into consideration, and I don't mean to point fingers, but there are some people that just got here that are enjoying what it is that we've been putting in. So I think we're deep enough into the conversation that the real listeners are going to be able to hear this, and the ones that didn't, they'll hopefully somebody tell them about it. But I mean, if we already ripped the scab off and we already turned the knife, I might as well put a little eye gouge in there. So if we're going to talk about this election, and no need of skirting around it, and if we're talking about who's going to vote for who, the argument that I've had has been, well, Trump won't debate Kamala Harris. It's a smart move by Trump, and it's an equally smart move by Kamala Harris. I think both of them are playing a strategical warfare, or they have strategical warfare going on. And the reason I said it's smart by Trump is because he knows she's witty enough to keep the conversation off or about him lying. But she's smart enough to say, he won't debate me, because she's diverting the attention away from the fact that she ain't got shit to tell you, because she got the microphone in her face. Nobody can interrupt her. If she wanted to lie, she could lie. If she wanted to tell the truth, she could tell the truth. She wanted to give you all of what it is that she's going to do and how she's going to fix shit. Now's the perfect opportunity. But now she's got everybody thinking, we should be concerned about him not debating her. No, you got the fucking floor. Talk.
Yeah.
You don't need him. Good that he's not here to debate you, because he can't interrupt you. Tell me what it is that you're going to do to fix things.
Hey,
Absolutely.
almost ties back to negotiations. Sometimes when you're at the table, the first person who speaks loses. That's why you may not have nothing.
48 laws of power says whoever loses there, you're right. Yeah.
Whoever speaks first is loses. So whoever speaks first loses.
Yep.
So that's what you got. You know, no news is good news, and you can't mess up what you didn't stir up. So that could be what you have. But at the same time, again, it still leaves the pot simmering and boiling.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's so many unknowns out there, and the outlets can't turn a debate. Oh, well, you know, such and such, you know, by this poll won this debate, and vice versa. So this is one of the most unorthodox processes we've been through leading up to an election. And then think about what's on the heels, what's at stake in this election. Interest rates. They saying that they're gonna drop in September. You know, all those speculations are there. Auto market is down, housing is down. So it's so much buildup that the people want to hear somebody say something, but at the same time, it's almost like the candidates don't want to lie because they already know what's finna happen.
Well, they don't have to be held accountable.
This is true, because you're gonna have to get in there and say you finna turn this thing around. Get what? They may know this thing ain't finna turn around.
Or they're gonna ask how. How are you gonna turn it around? Because for for the Republicans. If Democrats were to ask the Republican candidate, give us specifics of what it is that you're going to do. And if he can't go in, and the reason I say that he can't go in is because he's created a division between him and the party.
Mm-hmm.
Because clearly there was a decisive, end, because you had those that were willing to concede, and then you got those that said, well, he still won. And then you also have, on the other end, you got people want to ask Kamala Harris, so you're going to fix what y'all screwed up? and if you're going to fix what y'all screwed up, give me details of why it is that I got to choose between gas and groceries because the economy is so high. But I also want to know, how is it that somebody that's an immigrant here is getting services and benefits that I, as an American, cannot get? And so when you can also double back with Trump and be like, well, okay, so what are you going to do? Because, if I asked a lady one time, I said, which Republicans don't like immigrants? And she was like, what do you mean, which Republicans? I said, well, if I'm a business owner and I'm corporate level Republican, I write checks and I pay off politicians and I employ lobbyists. And I also, if I have a business, I want cheap labor. So if an immigrant comes over here and I can pay him under the table, I like immigrants. Because he don't want to let nobody know he's over here, and I don't want to let nobody know he's over here because I get to pay him very little. But you also have Republicans that are saying they're taking our jobs, and those Republicans say that the immigrants or the illegal aliens are taking their jobs, are blaming the illegal aliens and not blaming the people who own the factories that they work in. So, and I was like, so which Republicans don't like illegal immigrants?
No answer? Crickets?
No, she couldn't say nothing.
Crickets.
I'm almost genius. I don't know.
Almost. What we got to do to get you over, man?
I mean, ain't no telling.
Man. So
yeah.
Where we at, James?
So you asked a question a little while ago. You said how, as far as, when we talk about issues, are you guys able to discuss specific policies of either candidate?
Well, that ties into what we were saying just a minute ago. No, because both of them, it's a stalemate right now. Nobody wants to come out and vocalize their ignorance. Nobody wants to vocalize. I mean, there's nothing that people can clearly say that Kamala Harris of this last administration has been instrumental in blah, blah, blah. And it specifically ties into what the agenda was coming into the presidency. There are things that, because somebody said something about, well, they made it so that they came down and there was something that some kind of grant that was given. And the way that I explained it to my client was, he was a young man. I said, well, what you have to understand is you're saying that jobs were created because they gave the Biden administration gave a grant to somebody in Mississippi and they brought jobs out, right? And he was like, yeah. I said, so who did that benefit? So that benefited the person who started the business, not the people who got jobs.
Right. You see, that's bird's eye versus around the corner.
Right.
I mean, you got to pull back. And all you do, pull back, zoom out, because you can't see around the corner unless you zoom out. And you can't see why the dominoes are falling in the direction. So jobs versus job creators.
And so when I explained to him, if you want to help poor, suffering areas, re-educate them on how to become self-sufficient. You don't create more programs to make them dependent. You create programs to make them self-sufficient.
But then
They won't need you.
You are providing a solution to a problem that benefits people.
Right. And that's not the intention, is to create solutions. It's to perpetuate dependency. And so in most cases, all right, so to make sure I shit on everybody equally, think about this concept. I live in the greater Appalachian Mountains, and in the eastern Kentucky, and the whole nine. So I say Trump said that he was going to open the mines up. Now, mind you, I have a history of knowing that my father, my grandfather, his father before him, all died with black lungs from working in the mines. All these corporations, when Obama came in, switched over to clean coal. Trump says that he's going to bring mining back because our area of the country has flatlined. And Trump said that he's going to bring it back. And I want him to bring back coal mining, which means that the corporations are going to have to go back and switch back. They're going to spend millions to switch back over to work with dirty coal. There's going to have to be somebody to come in and reinvest in this mine. And I'm going to go back into, because they luckily shut down the mines before I got black lungs. So hopefully whenever they open up, I'll be able to work in there so I can get black lungs and I can die too. That's what the hell these people are advocating for. They're advocating for their own death.
I think about whenever we talk about politicians taking advantage of their base in the media, playing on people's emotional needs. Like I watched, I forget the exact name of it, but what it's called. But I watched Trump meet with black journalists. Like I said, I forget the name of it, but they asked him about what he said about allowing police officers to do their jobs with immunity, and I was thinking about that because I was like, police officers pretty much already have qualified immunity. They're just not. They don't have immunity from criminal charges. So in that situation, I was like, is he just saying that because he knows that for the most part, this is what people want to hear, but they don't really know the details of it, so it sounds good. And then I feel like for a reporter or journalist to ask him that question, I was like,
it was loaded.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, if you take all of that into consideration, because there's a couple of other things that we can say. You can talk about rolling back of Roe v. Wade. You can talk about the qualified immunity with the police officers. You can talk about a whole bunch of other stuff. There is a responsibility that the public has when it comes to what guidelines are being set. If I were to say the rolling back of Roe v. Wade, and this is just a perspective. I'm not saying that this is what I'll just say it. Roe v. Wade protects the public. And the reason I say it protects the public is because a gentleman asked me when it first happened, man, what do you think about the thing with Roe v. Wade? And I was like, I don't care. I'm married. Simply put, I don't care. I'm married. So if I get my wife pregnant, but rules don't apply to me because I'm smarter than the rules. And the reason I say I'm smarter than the rules, if somebody says we're going to make it hard for you to get an abortion, don't leave it in her. Don't leave it in her, and you don't have to worry about getting an abortion. Simply put,
man,
he helping you out.
Yeah.
And when it comes to dealing with the police, If I'm going to deal with the police and I know that they have the capability of killing me and not getting in trouble, I gotta stop being an asshole to the police. I need to subdue. If he doesn't have the capability of calming down and de-escalating the situation, me as a civilian, I gotta come. I'm like, okay, well, look, officer, I'm the one that called. What is it that I need to do to make you feel comfortable so you don't kill me? Let me disarm you, or you disarm me, whatever the case may be, in terms of the figurative sense of disarmament. There are people that come into my business. I was like, man, because this last barber did this and blah, blah, blah. And I couldn't get someone to, okay, well, all right. I get it. I hear you. Because everybody just wants to be heard.
And acknowledge, yes.
Right. And so if and God forbid that anything happens to where, because you had the Philando Castile situation that scared everybody because like he did everything right. He just had an overzealous police officer. But there are instances where I'm watching, I'm like, bro, you could have handled that a little bit different.
Man, nobody wants to hear that because it's almost a form of gaslighting. Because you get that and the media curves the information to what they want you to see to provoke a certain response. And that's not saying nothing's wrong, right, or indifferent. That's just saying that, hey, you have to be responsible to get all the facts before you react. That's just like news breaks. Everybody wants to react to it, and then we don't know. You don't know everything. And then you're criticized and called a villain because you want to sit back and get all the details.
Yep.
Right. And you want to be responsible enough to say, hey, man, what if I was in that situation? If there's anything I could have done, not to blame any victims that have been, no, that's not what we're saying. But, and it's crazy that you could be criticized for sitting back to gather all the information. All responses don't have to be now.
Yeah.
Well, it does nowadays because there are emotional reactors and emotional responders. And you also have logical people.
Yep.
Those are the two. You got men that have been taught feminine ways. And not saying that every woman reacts and responds emotionally, but when you get a guy that does, you can tell he got some girly in him. Because men are not, for the most part, try to be non-confrontational. Because there's always, whenever men are congregating together, there's always a hint of violence. It's just like, if you disagree with me, you're going to have to put your foot down and give me substance behind why it is that you do. Because you just can't disagree because, it's almost like the LeBron and Jordan. Like, I need to know why you think he's better than him.
Right.
Yeah.
You just can't tell me because that's just how you feel.
Yeah.
Give a damn about how you feel. And so with nowadays, people, as soon as something pops up, oh, did you hear about what happened at it's like the lady that in Illinois that got shot. Everybody was upset that she got shot. Now, I'm not saying that the police officer was clearly in the wrong. But what I am saying is, before I say anything, I need to know all the details.
Exactly.
You talking about Sonia Massey?
Yes. Yeah. As a responsible adult from grade school, from junior high, from elementary, when you are taught, my 11-year-old right now, they're in his language arts, they read everything.
Context.
Read everything. When you're taking a test, read it. Because everybody, back in the day, we was in a rush. We'll go through, figure out what the question is, and then go back and read the story. You don't have to do that. If you just go ahead and read the story, you can answer the questions quicker.
Right. And when you do that, what it teaches you also, too, is to filter out BS.
Yeah.
Because filter out your opinion?
If you going back to that, what do they call it? word problem. You could be a word problem. It could be a comprehensive question or something like that. When you read, there are tidbits of information that have no value, and you have to decipher from that.
Yep.
And because if you don't, they will pop a question on you about that particular sentence that has no value just to throw you off. And you have to identify that as, man, that has no value. And why are they asking me about that? And that's not even in the story. Was it A, B, C, D, F, none of the above? And it's like none of the above.
Absolutely.
So you have to have that skill set, and that's not a common skill.
Absolutely.
Getting all your information before you make a decision, because everybody, they judge your manhood based on how you react.
Absolutely.
If you don't react instantly, you're a punk.
Absolutely.
Not being able to step back and say, hey man, I got more to lose if I go in this direction. So I'm gonna let you have that. It's like Magic Johnson was telling them, y'all can have Christian later. Yeah. Y'all can have the college kid. I'm gonna let you have that. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, if that's what you want, go right ahead. I'm gonna live to see tomorrow, get home to my babies, and I'm gonna start over, because that's the thing, getting to the next day. But you can't do that if you make rash decisions, because if you make the wrong rash decisions in the course of 3 hours, man, you'll be out of here.
Absolutely.
So
that's what my dad taught me. When dealing with the police, he's like, I don't care. Look, if they spit in your face, don't react. You do whatever you have to do to make it home. And I know I've had that discussion with friends before. It's like, well, what if they do this? Well, what if they do that? But like you said, you gotta weed out the BS. And it's like, all that matters is, at the end of the day, I make it home to my family.
Exactly. Only thing that matters.
Because if you escalate, he has a gun. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Nobody's ever won fighting the police in the street.
Yeah.
There's never been a decision making. I just had this conversation with my son Kingston last night, and the conversation that we had was, do not let chivalry fool you. Because I told him, I was like, the reason that, because I don't want you jumping in somebody else's fight, is because those two people, they may like to fight each other. Mm-hmm. And if they turn around because you done got in and they do something to you, I'm gonna be upset.
Yeah.
I tell my wife, do not argue with another man. I argue with me.
Exactly.
Because
say that one more time. But
yeah, I told her, do not ever have no argument with no man. I'm talking about her family, my family, a man in the street. Do not argue, because if he says something to disrespect you, now the problem that I got with him is way different. We ain't even in the situation about what it is that y'all are arguing about. Mm-hmm. But I also have a understanding of whenever I'm out in the streets and I see some let's say a man jumping on a woman. I didn't get trained to be police. I'm calling the police. Hopefully they can get here before he do anything to her. She do something to him. That ain't none of my business, because the society would have me to believe I'm supposed to protect the honor of that woman. No, I'm supposed to get home. I'm supposed to get home to my children.
Exactly.
Because if something happens and that man does something to me and there's nobody to raise my children,
and somebody got to tell them that. Somebody got to tell them that. Man, your daddy jumped into a situation where somebody was getting beat down. And
now my kid gonna be mad at me.
Yep. That dude pulled a gun and killed him. And then them two people still in a relationship.
Yeah.
Somebody got to tell your kids when they get older what you did. Mm-hmm. So people look at it and they shame you for that, oh, you're not protecting such and such. But
absolutely,
you got responsibility. You can't overextend. You just can't.
And I would say to them, in the illustrious words of Miss Seeley, but I'm here. But I'm here. I'm talking, but I'm here.
I'm here.
Curse fingers.
You're black, you're ugly, you can't cook, but I'm here.
and that's what you hear a lot. Like a lot of people on social media, it seems like that's the tone of a lot of people. It's like, oh well, black men are protecting black women. It's like, I'm protecting mine. And like you said, like if you step in a situation, get killed, or it's a situation where they like to fight and argue, and you jump in, and then you end up in jail, and then they still together and all that stuff. And then it's like, well, for what,
bro? People that cannot be told what to do cannot be protected. Beyonce pays her. This is what I had to explain to my wife. Beyonce pays her bodyguard. Her bodyguard runs shit.
Yeah.
And she was just like, no. I said, okay, well, case in scenario. The scenario is Beyonce is out smiling, kissing babies, signing autographs. The gentleman that gets paid to protect her recognizes she's in danger. You know, the spot's been compromised.
Yeah.
Miss knows we need to go. And then Beyonce turns around and says, I pay you. I tell you what to do. And all of a sudden, somebody hit her upside the head. A person that does not follow directions cannot be protected. So if I tell my daughter, my wife, my cousin, baby, it's 2:30 at night. You don't need to wear that, and you don't need to go there. If something happens to that individual, like, come get me. No. No. Because if I come there and I'm trying to protect your honor, I told you not to go.
It's not going to end
well. If somebody do something to me, who's going to raise my children?
It's not going to end.
You already have a selfish perspective because you calling me to get you out of something that I told you not to get into.
The person responsible for the cleanup is the person that has the authority.
Yeah.
If I ain't got to clean it up, go right ahead.
There it is.
But guess what? If you calling me, I need to know ahead of time because it's probably not a good idea. And I was going to piggyback off of what you said when you mentioned talking about the whole thing as far as getting the abuse and the public would have you look as a villain.
Yeah.
If you don't come to that person's honor. But guess what? You ain't you're not a what do you call it? All-American hero if you do it.
Yeah.
If you lose your life, they're gonna say, man, it was tragic. In other news, gas prices average $2.48 a gallon right now, and that's all-time low for the summer of 20.
Yeah.
So you got to be comfortable with you when you make those decisions. So,
all right, so let's bring this full circle because we're approaching the last 8 minutes. In terms of that, and to land the plane on that, and to bring it back full circle, that difference in mindset, and it's almost like a selfishness, but there is a significant degree of selfishness that has to be had when determining who's going to be your next political leader. And so if I'm saying I'm looking at these two political candidates that are vying for presidency, and both are showing themselves to be inept, it's of no concern of mine, because if everything's been ushered back to states get to choose and states' rights and the whole nine, which is what people have been jockeying for. That's what the Republican Party has been jockeying for. It's almost depending on where it is that you are and you're a Democrat, and they say, okay, well here, it's states' rights works for me because we get to have abortions over here, or we get to say that kids get to have the choice to do something to themselves, cut their privacy off. States' rights work for you there. But over here, the Republicans are saying, well, states' rights work for me here because we're not having abortions. So the bad part about it is, while people are having these deep philosophical, opinionated conversations about their president or who they want to be their president, you need to be working on your state and local understanding. Because how the taxes work and how it is that your vehicle runs, and basically by there not being any potholes on my side of town. Because West Street, I don't know which one of my vehicles I like to drive over there, because whenever I got to go to the Mississippi Grind to work, I got to drive like I'm drunk just to make sure that my car don't tear up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's that bad. And so, but that goes to show how tax dollars are not being utilized properly over there. But over here in Rankin County, there's always road work going on.
Man.
It's an inconvenience to some people, but it's progression to others.
Man, I'm telling you, you will see a pothole 3 feet deep one day, and literally you behind the asphalt truck the next morning, and they laying it down and it's smoking off the street.
Yeah,
they own it. And big shout out to everybody who do public works and stuff like that, man. You are important. We appreciate what you do. You the infrastructure that keeps everything going. Piggyback on top of that, what you just said, you went all the way down to the state and the local. Let's bring it all the way down to self. What is your plan? Because at the end of the day, whoever's elected, you still got to get up there next day and make some stuff happen. What is your plan economically? Are you still depending on somebody to raise your minimum wage just so you can stay afloat? Or are you trying to learn a new skill set that's going to push you to the next level? You know, we often villainize the people who have the economic influence to sway elections, but guess what? Money talks. Let's be honest. It's you want to know what's going on, follow the bread. And if you want to be involved in that situation, get you some bread. And how you gonna get you some bread? Skill set. And I know it's a process. It's not easy to just say. It's a process, but at the same time, it starts with self. What are you gonna do regardless of who gets elected? Because at the end of the day, that's what it boils down to. You still gonna have to wake up. Once that person gets sworn in, you still got the same bills, probably still going to the same job like all of us. And you got to deal with the same things that are going on regardless of who's in. So what is your plan? And I think a lot of times people look out so much for a solution. They don't know sometimes it's within. Your solutions are within.
Solutions are within.
They're within. And you'll find out as you gain the skill set, bring more value to the table, get that what's called leverage. You'll be surprised on what you'll be able to influence on the city, state, local level based on what amount of prestige you have gained in order to make some differences, you know, even for your family or your community. So it all starts with you, you know, just don't hang yourself on who's going to be the president, because at the end of the day, it's almost like hanging on, trying to see if them Cowboys are going to make it to the Super Bowl. and when they don't make it to the Super Bowl, you don't jump out the bandwagon, start right back up in August. We going this year.
Yeah.
So the question is, I present to everybody watching this, are you going this year? And how you going to get there? You can change your quarterback, your coach, your receivers. You can change your offensive line. You can change anything in your life. You got the power to do so. How are you going to change to influence the change in your life?
Absolutely. Very well said, man. I can't add anything to that.
Come on, you got to give us something now.
Man.
Come on now. We got to have something, James.
Hey, you hit the nail on the head, man. You have to up your skill set, because nobody's coming to save you. Nobody gives you anything for free.
That's it.
You're compensated for the value that you bring based on the skill set that you have. And everybody wants something for nothing, but nobody's going to give that to you.
Right.
So, like I said, I can't add anything to what you.
No, that's great, man. Yeah. That's great.
Well, this concludes this episode, but I see where this conversation is going to, after we go back and reflect. I know we're going to get a lot of feedback, and it's phone calls and direct messages, you know, and they also give us the opportunity to kind of look back and see at certain aspects of where we can branch off,
right,
to create different conversations, which is how you unpack and fix where it is that we are, and whether or not you have a global, national, or local perspective about how things should go and how things should be fixed. But as long as we actually start back having I got to make sure that I'm covering my sheep and my goat, and you covering your cows, and you're covering your chickens. And once we get there, that's how the villain's perspective is. It actually breaks down, because it's like, I have to be selfish in order to be a part of the collective. And so I appreciate all y'all's y'all's input and your perspective, because it gave a lot of clarity to me. And so hopefully by the time that we walk ourselves into the next conversation, we can still have a clear, concise, beneficial perspective that hopefully can be shared amongst the masses. So I appreciate you guys, man.
Appreciate you. I'm glad to be here.
No doubt.